Hi, everybody out there on podcast land. This is Frank Lutz from Los Angeles with my techie here, Alex. And we got these lovely guests from New York City. Oh, my God, New York, from Cat Georges and Peter Carlaftes. And
Hi.
they're wonderful, famous poets and performance artists. And they've been all over the world and the United States and Europe and even Venice. And, and they're not only performance artists are also prominent in Dada art. They're leaders in Dada, and you got to be wacky to do that. Believe me, and they are wacky. And there's a wacky side to them, I should say. And they're also published poets, and they also have an editing and publishing business. They're called Three Rooms Press, and they produce a lot of books for poets themselves and other people. And it's just a great publishing house. I was fortunate enough to have them do the editing for me in the four books I wrote about my sweetheart, Linda J. Albertano, a wonderful poet and performance artist who passed away 3 years ago. But Linda and I were together for 55 years, and we're still together. We still yak. And anytime you want to know about afterlife communication, let me know, and I'll tell you about it. But in any event, Peter and Kat, their company helped me edit my books to make them look great, and then the publisher was here in Los Angeles. Her name was Deborah Granger with Three Rooms. Not that's sorry, that's Kat's.
It's us.
Quiet Time Publishing. Quiet Time Publishing in LA published the books, and these folks did the editing, and they did a beautiful job for me, and a lot of great photographs and script that they corrected for us and made it look right. So anyway, I'm happy to have them on today. We're going to interview them about poetry and performance art and whatever they want to talk about. It could be Greek food. I hope so. And anyway,
Mm.
so to get started, anybody can talk up at any time. I'd just like to know what first brought you to wanting to be a poet, and was it when you were a kid, or was when you were in college, or whatever was it that stimulated your desire to write poetry? Was it your heritage, somebody in the family? And anybody can start. And tell us what it was that stimulated that bug in you.
Well, for me, I started writing poetry when I was 4. And I know because I always said that to people, but then after my mother had to move out of her house, my sister went in and cleaned everything up, and she found a poem that I had written when I was 4 years old. So it was true. And I've always been interested in poetry, all kinds of poetry. My grandmother was also very interested in poetry, and I became extremely interested in spoken poetry when I heard Michael McClure on the radio one day driving in Los Angeles traffic. And it just all of a sudden it hit me how powerful that can be. So, Peter, what about you?
I started very early, just wanting to be a writer and writing, and even before I was a teenager. But I think it was in the '70s with Bukowski becoming to the light that really inspired me to say, hey, if this guy can do it, if this guy can get out what he wants in his own style, so can I. So what is my style? And that's how I progressed.
And what was the name of the poet you were reading?
Charles Bukowski.
Oh, Bukowski, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Bukowski. Yeah, he was
He
here.
was very influential in my early days in the
Didn't you
70s.
call him once?
I talked to him on the phone once.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
His phone number was listed in one of his poetry books, and I called it, and we had a little chat. I didn't put the weight of my future on his back, and nor did he want it there. So it was just an enjoyable little call that was also inspiring.
That's fantastic. Did you meet him in New York or LA?
I never met him. I only called him. I never got
Oh,
to meet him.
okay.
But Michael McClure, this is a funny story. Michael McClure is such a huge influence on my writing and my desire to read out loud, my poems out loud. There was a play that was written by Kevin Killian in San Francisco, and he cast different people as different like beat poets or famous literary figures, and I got to play Michael McClure.
She was.
So I was so excited. I had this huge, beautiful navy blue woolen cape, and I practiced the hell out of it. And I had all my lines memorized, and I gave the performance of my
She
life
stole the show.
playing Michael McClure. After the show, I found out Michael McClure was in the audience, and I had no idea. And he thought my performance was very good.
He loved her.
We were going to be performing, staging a couple of his plays at our theater that we had at the time, Marilyn Monroe Memorial Theater in San Francisco. But it didn't work out, and I wish it had. But it was really great meeting him.
Didn't hold you back, you kept on moving. And
Yeah.
Linda and I were on the road with you guys in San Francisco and New Orleans
That's
and one
right.
other city. Anyway, it was she loved you guys obviously, and she always got a kick out of performing with you and thought it was great. And
Yeah.
I have to ask you a question, Kat. When you were 4 years old, in your first poem, were there any polysyllabic words in it, or was it just all kid words, or what? I mean, um,
It was pretty basic. I think it was out on the sea, the boat sails, and then a couple of other variations of that. So
yeah.
I thought that was good,
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh no, yeah, of course. I just didn't know how advanced the language was for her because, in some cultures they start teaching kids polysyllabic words sooner than we do in this culture, and so that's why I asked the question. And
Yeah.
so it's great. I think it's fantastic. That's good. So
Great.
when you were developing your poetry, um, I'm talking about the early days. Aside from Bukowski, who are some of your other favorite poets that you saw sort of as models or people you'd like to learn how to do it with? You remember any
Well,
names?
yeah. Um, Shakespeare, of course, because Shakespeare
Yeah,
invented, so many things, and what
I
a
mean,
great way
it's
of
like if you read Four Quartets by T.S. Eliot, it's
yeah,
like listening to Jimi Hendrix. Thinking, why would you play the guitar? After
right.
reading Four Quartets, why would you be a poet? Well, you are
Yeah.
because you're still inspired to create your own voice
T.S.
because
Eliot was a big influence.
they've
Yeah.
created theirs, and that's the inspiration is the individuality and a belief in individuality.
Yeah.
yeah, I got
Yeah.
it.
Anne Waldman, the beat poets, a lot of the beat
A lot of the
poets.
beats.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, of
So,
course. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, no, I remember I was 10 when I started reading poetry, and my dad saw me reading a poetry book, and we talked about it, and he said, most people think that music is the highest form of art, but I don't. I think my dad is talking now. He's a big guy, and he's an athlete and a scholar, like I became. But he said, I'm 10 years old reading this, and he said, I don't think that music is the highest form of art. I think poetry is. I said, why is that, Dad? He said, because the whole idea about poetry is learning how to express yourself better in terms of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and ideas you may have. And also if you have something that you don't agree with, you learn how to express yourself in words, not in music. And I just think it's more useful for everybody in
Yeah.
terms of doing all of that. And much as he loved music, he took me to my first opera when I was 10 years old. And it was amazing. Yeah, it was I Vespri Siciliani. I'll never forget it. I became a scholar of Sicilian history. So, but
Wow.
yeah, but in any event, yeah. So that's really, really, really interesting how you got started. So I remember one of my favorite poets, of course, even when I was young, was Pindar. Was Pindar, an ancient Greek, back
Right.
500 years
Hmm.
before Christ.
Right.
And yeah, he wrote poems about traveling, walking across the countryside, and people he'd meet, he'd either have to fight or flee, so,
Sure.
but anyway,
Homer, of course, fit in there.
absolutely.
And also, and then later on, Cavafy. I still like reading Cavafy, who's a more contemporary Greek poet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
so
yeah. And it's just, I mean, it's endless how much influence there is out there and what great poets there were, but you can focus on a few, like one of my favorite, I'm a fan of World War I poets. So Wilfred Owen, for
Sure.
example.
Yeah.
Quarter Mace, Pro Patria Mori, that kind of stuff. So
Technically, we're fans of World War One poets too, because that's when Dada started.
yeah,
And we have an annual journal, Dada, Maintenant Dada Journal, that Linda has been in many versions of it and many editions of it. And we get 250 people from around the world who are what we call
Annually.
contemporary Dada poets and artists, and put together this journal annually that
yeah.
is,
The
yeah.
Journal of Contemporary Dada Writing and Art.
Well, we have all of your volumes,
That's
because Linda ended up getting all of them from you guys.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think when you were asleep, I think she stole a few from you. No, just kidding.
She
No,
would be entitled.
we've performed at Beyond Baroque we've hosted many Dada salons, some at Beyond Baroque up in San Francisco, and then just this last year we were so lucky to be able to perform at where Dada movement actually started during World War One
Yeah,
in at Cabaret Voltaire in Zurich.
yeah,
And so
Amazing show.
that was an incredible show.
yeah,
So we're very happy about being able to get
yeah,
out there
On the same stage as the Dadas began with the manifesto,
yeah,
and
yeah, and many things that are happening now are, uh,
yeah,
echo some of that uh, same
disdain. Yeah,
sentiments. The war, the leaning towards war, the desire to take over countries, and it's just
yeah.
I think the Dada movement has never really died out completely, because it was been extremely influential throughout
it's always been a
this
part of
history.
every movement since the
Yeah, for the
surrealists.
beats,
Yeah,
the beats,
beats,
punk rock.
definitely hippies, punk rock.
Yeah,
Everybody
so
took a chunk of Dada along with them,
yeah, and so we're
and
continuing that.
not in a stolen way, but in an inspirational way, because there's much to be inspired by from the Dadas who were,
Well, the point you guys make, I can see it just in the local parlance of people and also in the writings. The more this guy keeps pushing toward, Greenland and Denmark and all this stuff that our Presidente has, the more people are starting to talk about the wackiness of war and what the hell are we talking about invading and, trying to take over other countries. And
Right.
yeah, we try to
well,
avoid
I
politics.
mean, they just went and took a president away, which you don't know what any of the truth is. You don't know what the actual spin behind
Right.
it is. The oil companies, the this, the that, whatever the true spin is,
Yeah.
it can't control us. It can't control our lives, and we should get rid of this guy by any means possible. Whatever it takes to do it now. Do it today. Don't wait till tomorrow. Him out. Get
Yeah.
him off wherever it is. Just get him
Yeah.
out.
The conversation has just changed so much in the last year. Just, like the conversations that people have about what's going on politically, and it's a shame. Well, getting back to poetry. So,
Hmm.
like this is sort of a mundane question, but when did you have your first poems published? When do you recall when it was first when you first got published?
Mine were published in a high school journal, creative writing journal, and the following year I became the editor of that journal. And I've had kind of a yen for publishing ever since. So I put out, I send my poems out to different things. One great thing I was published in was a LA-based newspaper. It was called A Piece of Paper. That was the name of the magazine. It was published during the 80s, mid 80s, and basically it was just one piece of paper printed both sides and distributed in cafes. But
Interesting.
they sent it out they put it together every month, and that was great. I loved being there. When I moved up to San Francisco, I started a magazine called The Fold, and we figure a poetry magazine is not going to last that long, so we call it The Fold because we're going to fold anyway. But
Eventually.
yeah, when we actually published it, what we did is we folded, we took that idea of a piece of paper, but used a larger piece of paper, then folded it different ways for each issue, so it would read like a journal. So
Interesting.
that was fun.
What about
Yeah.
you, Peter? When did you?
I didn't start publishing until probably the 90s. I started performing and writing more at that time. The 80s, kind of just passed me by working and this, that,
Raising
and
your
the other.
kids.
Yeah, the kids were
Yeah.
born, this, that, and the other.
You know,
But
yeah, interesting. Linda came to California from Denver, and a sad story, but she was brought up in foster homes and finally had to come out here. She was 19 years old and she published her first poem when she was 19 in Orange County. And
Hey.
yes, and I've been on a search to find that thing, and she can't remember the name of the publication. And so we're doing all kinds of research to try to find out where it is, because it was 19 when she was 19, and it was her first poem published, and I want to find out. So interesting. So this is a I don't know what you call this kind of a question I'm going to ask you, but I guess the easiest way is just to frame it. What do you think is really important in poetry? What do you think is important in poetry when you're writing it? What is it you're trying to convey, or what is it? Is it how do you categorize it?
I would say that you have found your voice, or are finding your voice, and are not, uh, lashing out in different ways that you haven't, or using things that other people on earth do to take things out on each other. So you can see this easily in a poet. They're very exposed. So what you want to do is find your voice and let it come out. Let it and be there to inspire others. That's the very best you can do.
Yeah. And you never know. One person, once I was asked during an interview, um, do you think other people will understand your poems the same way you do? And, one of it is just the creation of the poem itself is a statement that you've taken time, your limited amount of time during your busy life to stop, and to stop a moment that you think has a significance, and you're giving it a place to be that moment. And so there's a quote that Maria Papalov
Papa
wrote one
Papa.
time that I have hanging by my desk. It's incredible. It says, "How astonishing to remember that nothing has inherent color, that color is not a property of objects, but of the light that falls upon them reflected back. So too with the light of the mind, it is attention that gives the world its vibrancy, its kaleidoscopic beauty. The quality of attention we pay something or someone is the measure of our love. When we pay generous and unalloyed attention to anything, we are learning to love everything. We are learning that all around and within this world there is another, numinous and resonance with wonder, shimmering with a sense of the miraculous."
Right.
And that's incredible. Paying
Uh,
attention to something is what a poet can do, and you're creating it too. It's not like every single poem is exactly you know is a description of exactly truth. It is symbolic. It is it's paying attention though. So that's
that's very interesting. It's interesting to me, what you're saying. It's uh, to me, my poetry. I never published before I met Linda, and when I met her, I realized she was a poet, and I didn't want her to feel like I was competing with her, so I never told her I was a poet. And
Yeah.
when she found out I'd written a lot of poetry, she found my dossier and she had it all retyped for me in the same font, so it was readable. And the thing about as thick as a New York phone book.
wow.
What happened with me was things. One was I have remote viewing, which is seeing things far away that are real, and it's been tested by police agencies and stuff, and it's real. And so for me, writing poetry was about what really happened in a certain circumstance, like to me, or what I observed in a certain circumstance. So in effect, what it was about reality from a different perspective, not just
Mm,
opinion, but like what really happened to me and what I thought at the time that was going on, when
yeah.
I'm seeing it. So anyway, it's interesting how people focus on different things for what is important to them in their when they're writing poet. So
Right.
so who are some of your if I can ask this, who are some of your favorite contemporary poets? It's
Uh,
these days.
Contemporary poets and Waldman, of course, is just so strong, um, and and I would say there's a lot of New York poets that we hang out with, and LA poets, and a lot of them don't have necessarily the fame that of the huge fame, but we love them. Just a
I've
list.
published many a poet in
Yeah,
our not
yeah.
Yeah,
journal every
S.A.
year.
Griffin, Mike Millette,
yeah,
Danny Schott from here, Bob Holman, uh,
yeah.
Jane LaCroix, uh, Matthew Hupert. All of these people are just they're
Fred Marchant.
Fred
Oh
Marchant.
boy.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
he's incredible.
Sean.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
What, got 9 minutes?
Yeah.
S.A. Griffin for sure is one of my favorites. And
Rich Ferguson. Yeah,
yeah, and,
right,
and I like the guy anyway. He's a
right.
he, he, he's a real character. So if you were teaching a class to kids, let's say grade school or high school, about poetry right now, what would be your departure point? How would you start, or what would be something you would emphasize to tell them that you think is really important about poetry?
I would just have them start by writing poems. I mean, I think that's the most important thing you can tell anybody about poetry is
Finding a voice.
write it. Find your voice, write it. And let's start with write a poem about, I would put three objects in front of them and say, okay, write a poem about this, and see where it goes.
It's all about
Yeah.
your purpose and what your voice is. And that's,
Yeah.
you have to find your voice.
And that
Do you want to find your
nobody
voice?
can take that from
Yeah.
you too. That's something that you own that nobody can take away from you. So that's an important thing for a kid to realize, or for any artist to realize, when they're in their early days, is
What
that
So
voice.
important.
That's interesting to me because what Peter said is find your voice, which is absolutely
Mhm.
the essence of it. And what you did was you gave them a way to find their voice. You said,
Yeah,
put three objects in front of them and have
yeah.
them write a poem about each object. That's how they find their voice, by doing something like that.
Well, that's something like that. That's one
Sure.
way.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
one
find
way.
out the differences in each other too, and who really wants to do this. I mean,
Yeah,
it's about desire, it's about inspiration, and inspiring others. I think that's the most important thing. That
Yeah.
that you feel
right.
that you feel that the place you're in can possibly do that. And you're
Yeah.
hoping for that. That's
Yeah.
why you create.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's tough times right now. There's a lot of animosity. There's a lot of evil in the air right now, and to keep creating during these times is one of the most important things too. Is
I agree.
to give inspiration during the time. Some of the strongest poets of World War II were in concentration camps, and they
Right.
wrote while
Right.
during that camp. Or even Dostoevsky. I just read about this. He's in you know not Dostoevsky.
Ooh,
The sorry, the guy who wrote the Gulag Archipelago. So
Archipelago,
yeah,
Solzhenitsyn.
Solzhenitsyn. He was in Siberia and he couldn't write anything, so he started writing in his head, and he would impart things. None of his writing could be left around because it would be stolen. But he would impart things. He would have his wife memorize one chapter, have somebody else memorize another chapter, and the whole thing was, important to have available. And so find your voice and know that your voice is important. That's true too.
That's interesting. My voice, I learned so much from Wilfred Owen because he was writing on the war front in World War One, as you know.
Sure, Wilfred Owen.
Yeah, and extraordinary. And you had a feeling you were there. At least I did. And when I
Yeah.
read him, I had a feeling I was there. And I'm saying, how does this guy do this? It makes me feel like I'm there.
And he was killed there.
I know he was
Right,
killed
yeah.
on Armistice Day, and
Right, right at the
Uh,
game.
was he 26 years old or something like that? It was unbelievable. And he
Yeah.
wrote this great poem, Dulce de Coromis, that great poem, and some of the others he wrote. So
yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so it's interesting about finding your voice, what you're saying. Um, I remember, I mean, I'm a linguist. My training is in foreign languages, but I've always just written in English, um, my poetry, and I think I guess that's where my voice is, it's something like that. Anyway,
Where it is, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, we've only got a few more minutes in this recording. What do you want to pass on to everybody if you were like the sage of New York poets, and you're going to say, okay, this is what you need to do, kids.
Get
Okay.
the Mountain Journal. There's
Right.
250 different voices here in art and writing, and they all belong under a theme. This past year was ethics cleansing, and our new theme is impropaganda, and it's open for submissions right now. Go to our webpage and look for Mentenant submissions, and you can write a poem or create an art piece, a collage, whatever that will, be based on the theme of impropaganda, which is
Yeah.
something very important to us right
Why
now.
don't you spell out the name of your webpage for us so everybody knows?
ThreeRoomsPress.com.
Yeah, it's spelled out 3.
Spelled out 3.
How do you spell
So-
3? How do you do?
Yeah. How do you spell? There it is. Free Rooms Press.
There you go.
And also, if you want poetry, my first book was Drunkyard Dog. My second book of poetry was I Fold with the Hand I Was Dealt. And my third is Life in the Fast Lane. In the Past Lane, excuse
Yeah.
me. Life in the Past Lane. So
And as
get
long as
one
we're
of those.
showing it,
And here's
I
Kat.
got Our Lady of the Hunger. That was my
Yeah.
first book of poetry, and Awe and Other Words Like Wow. So,
Oh,
and then this book is a book of plays that includes Scum, the Valerie Solanas story, which Linda performed in.
That's right.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We were down in New Orleans.
New
And-
Orleans, I was there.
And
Yeah.
Beyond Baroque.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was there with you guys at New Orleans, and that was a wonderful trip.
Right.
I loved about Linda's poetry. She used to write it in invented languages. She wrote Dada, and she wrote
Right.
she wrote noir, but she also used to do invented languages. And she did that when she was going to curse somebody, and she wanted to. And so
Right.
she wanted to curse Bush, and one of her favorite poems was Buck Fush.
Right.
Buck Fush.
Yeah.
She never used a naughty word in a poem.
You can say that about every one of the presidents, and it just seems a little worse right now. But he was a horror show too with the people around him.
Yeah.
It's great. So
Yeah.
did you just do that?
Oh, no, Cat must have, right?
I did it.
Cat did that. Cat did that. Oh, that's great. We had to figure out how to do something like that.
You can do it. Press hard.
Yeah. Anyway, what do you got?
Um,
Yeah.
we got 2 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
All right. We're going to close here in about less than 2 minutes. Anything else you want to pass on to everybody?
ThreeRoomsPress.com.
Yeah.
Send us your work for impropaganda. We'd love to see your submissions, either 25 lines or less poetry, or
Yeah.
an artwork, a page of art, a collage, something exposing this mess, this nonsense we're in right now, exposing this
Yeah.
fascist state that we don't belong to, but it's certainly surrounding us. So you can imagine how many Germans felt the same way. Back in the day, say 1933, 34, 35.
And we're each going to have another book of poetry coming out in the fall.
She's
so-
forcing me again. She did it last time.
Yeah,
I'm thinking I
so-
might do a third book of plays, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Just
Yeah.
have one question. When are you guys going to get busy?
Right. Well, we've also are publishing 4 or 5 books this year. We got some lovely books coming out.
Including-
We don't publish a lot of poetry books per se.
Levitating the Pentagon. It's written by Nancy Kershaw, who was Jerry Rubin's partner and started the Yippies. Before I Forget, which is by Aram Saroyan, the son of William Saroyan.
He's
This
out
is
there
his
in LA.
memoir. And then also The Immortal Journeys of Isabel Eberhardt. This
Look
is
her up.
a biography. She was a Swiss-French explorer and writer who moved to Algeria in early 1900s and lived as a Sufi man
Great,
in the middle of
incredible
the
story,
Sahara
Isabel
Desert.
Weber.
Incredible story. So,
Yeah.
so that's what we're doing for our spring books, plus Maintenant 20.
Maintenant 20 is on the way.
Yeah,
We're
so
working on a cover, and we have a theme: propaganda.
yeah, we like to stay busy and do things that we want to put good things into the world and help, put something on the creative side of the scale
Yeah.
when everything else is
That's
trying
what we
to
do.
balance
We
things
keep
out.
adding to that.
Right.
And also, we did this a few years back,
Yeah. I saw
the
that.
faking of the president,
Yeah.
and it was all noir tales about presidents. And the last story, I get rid of Trump. He's off the planet. So if you want to be inspired, read The Faking of the President.
Right.
No more.
It's nice.
All right. Well,
talking to
thank you.
Thanks.
So
That
nice
was
talking
wonderful.
with you.
Wonderful interview. Okay. Take
All
care.
right.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for having us.
All right. Bye-bye.
Our pleasure.
All right.
Hi, folks. Excuse my voice, but it's cold out here. It's down to 50 degrees in Los Angeles. We're freezing. Anyway, this is book one of our series of 4 books on Linda that I wrote after she passed away. Linda J. Albertano, my sweet wife. This book is available at Beyond Baroque in Venice Beach, California. Also available at Small World Books in Venice Beach, California, and also available on Amazon. All 4 of the books, each one is over 200 pages. They're all in this large format, like 8 by 10. They're full of beautiful photographs, some color, some black and white, and articles about Linda. She was a spectacular performance artist and poet. She was one of the very few women ever named a poetry diva by the city of Los Angeles. She received a big plaque and an award for it, Poetry Diva. Anyway, this is a first book. It's a lot about her life in it. And as I said, they're available in those bookstores I mentioned. So book number 2 was this book called It All Began with Cherry Soup. It's about how Linda and I met and about our relationship and which was always great, and more poetry in it by Linda and some by me as well. And it's, again, over 200 pages, a beautiful book. And book number 3 is really an unusual book because this is called Two Souls Desperate to Connect. And this is a book about the transition I had to go through to learn what they call afterlife communication, which is a real thing. It really exists. And I've got 1.5 years of my conversations with Linda in here, with Linda and me and a medium, and all the conversations that we had for 1.5 years. It's really an interesting learning tool for people who've lost a loved one who'd like to communicate with them. It also talks about our poetry, her poetry and mine. And book number 4 is called Poetry Diva because Linda was as I said, one of the few women poets in Los Angeles area ever called a poetry diva. And there were a couple of others, and they're great poets. In any event, again, all of the books are available at Beyond Baroque in Venice, California, and also Small World Books in Venice, California, down on the beachfront, and also on Amazon. So there you go. They're all beautiful books. Talk to you later.